The Chargers have become much more explosive under Jim Harbaugh, adding players like McConkey, who is a captain on the all-fireworks team in 2025, alongside the hardest-hitting safety in the league, Derwin James.
You are Locked On Chargers, your daily podcast on the Los Angeles Chargers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is up, and welcome into the Locked On Chargers podcast. I'm your host, Daniel Wade, joined as always by my co-host, David Droegemeier, and we've been covering the Chargers now for 10 seasons together, but this is our 8th year as the host of Locked On Chargers podcast, bringing you your team every day. Thank you to all the everydayers out there for making us your first listen, and happy 4th of July to everyone. To make sure that you never miss the show, go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. David, what do we got today?
Happy Independence Day, everybody, and everyone in America. The Chargers have one of the most exciting, explosive teams in the NFL, and of course, we have to talk about the most explosive members on that team in the all-fireworks team. And the Chargers, I think this time, are going to do something for the first time that they have not done since 2021, and that is beat the Kansas City Chiefs. And Daiyan Henley, to me, is going to lead the league in the NFL in tackles this season.
That's a big one, man, but I think he can absolutely do it. But today's episode is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKDOWNNFL for $20 off your first purchase. David, we are doing a little bit of buy or sell, a little bit of Fan Mail Friday since we didn't do buy or sell earlier this week, but it's the 4th of July, which brings up an annual tradition of ours, which is the All 2025 Fireworks team, which thank you to John Clark for reminding us of that with his buy or sell today, or his question being it is Independence Day tomorrow. Name the Chargers offensive and defensive player who will have the most explosive impact in 2025. And the way I took that was basically the captains of the all fireworks team. And obviously Justin Herbert is always going to be the most impactful player on this roster, but so is every quarterback. So it seems like a kind of a cop-out to choose him for this one. To me, it's pretty clear here. It's McConkey and Derwin James, who not only I think will have, super explosive impacts on both sides of the ball, but also fit very well on the all fireworks team, David, as players who week in, week out show up and make explosive plays.
I mean, McConkey broke several Chargers records. We're talking about most receptions by a rookie, most receiving yards by a rookie, most receiving yards in a playoff game, 10 straight games with 50-plus receiving yards. McConkey is all over the Chargers record books. It did not take long. He has that explosive speed and quickness and just has that chemistry with Justin Herbert. It took the Chargers several weeks to kind of figure out who he was and what he brings to the table. It's all crystal clear now exactly what McConkey brings to the table. He is the wide receiver 1 for this football team, and now they know exactly how to use him, and I expect the fireworks for him to explode right out of the gate. And of course, Derwin James, we're talking about one of the biggest enforcers in the National Football League, a guy that I think also it took a little bit of time for Jesse Minter to kind of figure out what the right role was for Derwin James. And once he did, wow, it was big time production. We're talking about from week 11 on, he had about 5 of his, 6 sacks according to PFF. They don't do half sacks. So he had 5.5. Most of those came after week 11. So they figured out how to use Derwin James. And now that they know it, I think it's going to be on and popping from the very beginning of the season. Both these guys, great representatives of the all fireworks team. Of course, that's why they're the leaders.
Yeah, I mean, Derwin James just straight up led all defensive backs in sacks last season. If that's not fireworks, I mean, it's hard to say what isn't. But if it wasn't just that, it's the moments. It's him, power bombing, Travis Kelce on the 1 yard line. Like, it's him having those explosive hits. And I mean, credit to him, because even after the suspension last year in week 3 on a hit that absolutely did not deserve it, he's learned how to still deliver punishment, but do it in a way that hasn't cost his team and really didn't at all down the stretch. So for him to have kind of found that as the last real enforcer in the league, I mean, it's really awesome. And also what puts him consistently on the all fireworks team. And any of the years we've done this show, He's never not made the team. He's a stalwart of it. But what we know this year about Ladd McConkey that we didn't last year was just how much of a big playmaker that he was going to be. We knew he had the 4.39 speed, but it wasn't kind of big chunk plays. It wasn't breakaway touchdowns in college. And also he was hurt some of that time, so he didn't really put up huge stats in college. But last year we saw it, right? Whether it's the Texans game, which not only was the Chargers record for most receiving yards by a rookie in a playoff game, it's the NFL record by most receiving yards by a rookie in an NFL playoff game. Like, that's just crazy. He literally had the best playoff debut of any rookie receiver ever. So, like, he showed in that game with the breakaway touchdown in triple coverage. He showed in the game against the Saints where he catches a jump ball, weaves through traffic, and gets into the end zone. That he is fireworks too. He's not just a technician. He's not just a route runner. He's not just a slot receiver that's going to get you 8 yards and a first down. He's so much more than that.
Don't call him a slot receiver.
Yeah, exactly. Does not like that. But that goes along with the, the list of what we always have on our kind of all fireworks team, led by Justin Herbert. And for him, I mean, effortlessly explosive. But last year, more explosive down the field. I mean, he had the most 20-plus yard touchdowns in the NFL last year, which you wouldn't really think. But, before I looked it up, I wouldn't have guessed it. Highest big-time throw percentage of his career. Second most big-time throws on deep balls last year. Was the highest average depth of target that he's ever had last year, pushing the ball down the field more. And just fourth in deep shots taken overall of anyone in the NFL last year. So that part of his game has been more fireworks. But I think other guys, Darius Davis, Derwin James, obviously, Khalil Mack. I'd say Daiyan Henley gets on this list this year as well.
Yeah, absolutely, no question about it. And also Justin Herbert, one of the best play action pass quarterbacks in the league last year, also had multiple runs of 30+ yards as well. Like when he gets it going, gets open in open space, he can really take off and run. And I think that's an aspect of his game that we didn't get to see as much as we wanted to last year, that I think he's going to reintroduce himself to the league as far as that's concerned from that perspective. And I can't wait to see that. But yeah, Khalil Mack, easy, unbelievable, destructive power and explosive power. A guy that's been doing it in the league for a very, very long time. A guy
you could put Tuli in there too. Probably.
Is going to, and Tuli, the way he kind of operates in run support, just the physicality that he plays with. Don't ever try to block him with the tight end. He finds that to be very, very disrespectful. and of course, Daiyan Henley just everywhere. I mean, all over the football field, making an impact with the tackling ability, with his coverage ability, just smothering out other defensive player or other offensive players, just not letting them breathe. One of the best linebackers in the league in coverage, and a great tandem with Derwin James in coverage in particulars, just shutting down tight ends. They did an excellent job of that. And also, I think another guy that we have to throw on this list that we were not sure of, who was a rookie last year, who just so happened to collect 4 interceptions. And that's, of course, Tarheeb still, I think, is another guy that's on this list for me. And I think he is in for a massive second year. I think he's going to have a huge, huge leap. And I think 4 interceptions, I think we might be talking about a little bit more than that this season. And he's definitely ready for it. By all accounts, seems like he's going to take off.
Yeah, and it's very interesting, too, because he was a guy that we had on our newcomers to the All Fireworks team last year, him and Ladd McConkey. So nailed both of those ones on last year's 2024. We also had Junior Colson on the list. So if you need a little slice of humble pie, that'll get you there. But I think, David, the cool thing about this year is you're talking about who would kind of be on that list this year. I'd say the first 4 offensive rookies that you took, you could really make a case for all 4 of those guys potentially being on this list.
Oh, yeah. I think Trey Harris, a guy who can really beat man-to-man coverage. Obviously, KLS, who's got that, just blazing speed that can really take the top off of defense. Rondé Gadsden II, I think, is a guy that's really going to definitely show up in there. And, of course, with Amarion Hampton, the production, the speed, the power, just kind of the all-around game. He's that kind of show-stopping firework, that one that's going to make sure everybody pays attention because he's going to get his. I think he has that skill set that's really going to take over at some point in this season, and I can't wait for it. It's really awesome what the Chargers did to help Justin Herbert. Now he has all of the supporting key pieces that he needs to shine, and I think we're going to see some big-time fireworks on this offense in 2025.
I think so too, and maybe not all of those guys make it this year, but would be firmly placed on it next year. I mean, Amarion Hampton's the biggest home run threat they've had at running back in a long time. I mean, a different kind of speed than Austin Eckler, Austin Eckler had more wiggle for sure, but
Yeah.
just a different kind of player with the physicality he brings after the catch too. Trey Harris has just been a big playmaker. I mean, he averaged over 17 yards per catch the last 2 years in the NCAA and averaged 128.8 yards per game last season, which is just
Crazy.
insane. Gadsden's already the most explosive tight end on this roster. And let's be honest, KOS was drafted to bring the fireworks. That's why you get somebody like that. Huge playability, breakaway speed, great ball tracking. He'll eventually be on this list. And I think, it's not crazy to think he'll just be a better version of what Jalen Guyton once was for this team, which would be a big win for the Chargers if they could find that in him. But we still have more great stuff to get into, including why we believe 2025 is the year the Chargers will get back on track and beat the Kansas City Chiefs, and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. We've all been there, logging on early, waiting forever for concert tickets to go on sale, only to lose your spot for a show you've been dying to see. Live music should be about making memories, not dealing with the stress of ticket shopping, and that's where Game Time comes in, because Game Time makes getting concert tickets faster and easier than ever, because prices actually drop as it gets closer to showtime, and you can save up to 60% off with their killer last-minute deals. I remember getting tickets to Blink-182, one of my favorite bands, for like $18 and an obstructed seat, but you get the panoramic seat view, so I actually knew that I could see the stage perfectly from where my seat was. One of the biggest bargains I've ever got. But it's also about making those memories, and I know next year I'll be using Game Time to fulfill something on my bucket list, going to the World Cup in 2026, going to a World Cup game, something I've always wanted to do, and I'm going to go to the place where I see the exact price I'm going to pay, all the fees and everything included in it, and know exactly what my experience is going to be when I get there. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets and concert show, whatever you're going for with Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply, but again, create an account, redeem the code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off. Download the Game Time app today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. David, I've been very, very steadfast in my belief that, for the Chargers to take out the Chiefs in the AFC West, for the Chargers to really kind of be able to take over this division, that I have to see it to believe it. But that puts me at a crossroads here, because we do have a really good buy or sell here from a Fly Gemini, who says, buy or sell, the Chargers will split the series with KC. And if you were there for our early kind of game by game prediction, I did pick the Chargers. We both did, to split the season series with the Kansas City Chiefs. And I know I'm not going to say they're going to overtake them in the AFC West yet, David, but I do believe with how many close games there's been, with how much better this roster is than most of the rosters, maybe any of the rosters that Justin Herbert's ever had, I think in 2025 is the year where Justin Herbert beats Patrick Mahomes for the first time since 2021.
I mean, I honestly think that these two teams are heading in different directions. I think that the Chiefs had such an incredible high and a great, just unbelievable heater of a run. And I really, truly, I mean, you have to really acknowledge
some would say
that.
They still are, David. They've been
some would say that.
straight Super Bowls.
Some would say that for sure, and they would be justified in doing so. I think that they're at the end of that roller coaster ride. I think they have hit the bottom part of it, and they're going to start going downhill. And the Chargers have not beat the Chiefs since September 26th of 2021. And of course that was
they haven't beat Patrick Mahomes.
Mahomes.
There was one where they beat him after that, where it was they were resting their starters.
I'm not even taking that into consideration. That doesn't count to me. I mean, the last actual win against the full-fledged version of the Chiefs was that long ago, a very, very long time. The Chargers loaded up on offense, provided all the weapons that needed, hopefully better protection for Justin. That defense is in great shape. I really love what Jesse Minter was able to do, and now he knows exactly what he has, and I think they can hit the ground running from the very, very beginning. That's why I firmly believe they are going to split with the Chiefs, and it's going to start the season with the victory in Brazil. That is where I think the Chargers are going to make that statement that not only are they here to compete in the AFC West, but they're here to make that statement on behalf of the team that has dominated the AFC West for the last decade by beating the Kansas City Chiefs.
And I'm buying it this year too. Like I said, I mean, I just feels like all of these games are so close, and the Chargers have had so many bounces not go their way in this series, even with as many close games as there's ever been. But literally the last game they played against each other, it took a doinked field goal by the Chiefs to even win that game. But
Yeah.
this is the sickening part of it, is since Patrick Mahomes was the starter for the Chiefs, the Chargers have only beat them twice. You talked about it, 2021, Justin Herbert, Mike Williams touchdown very late in the game was what ended up deciding it, with basically no time left, which is kind of how you have to win these games against Patrick Mahomes. And the other time they beat him was the Mike Williams game as well. Maybe they needed Mike Williams back to beat the Chiefs, because it was the one
It's a sign,
in 2018, Daniel. 2-point conversion, a 3-touchdown game by Mike Williams. He ends up, with game. Basically what ended up being kind of a walk-off 2-point conversion all
Iconic
by himself in the end zone. Yeah, it was a great moment. But the crazy thing is, though, is in 12 chances, they've only beat him twice. But in the times that Justin Herbert has lost to Mahomes, 6 of the 7 have been one-score games. 2 were losses in overtime. And the average margin of defeat is 5.4 points.
Right there.
It's just crazy.
Every time.
Several of those games, too, you have, Justin Herbert getting banged up last year and having to end up coming out the next game against the Steelers because he tried to tough it out against the Chiefs. And then you also had the fractured rib cartilage game as well in 2022. So it's been something in those games that's really plagued him. But this is the most sickening part. In his first career start, Justin Herbert gave the Chargers a 3-point lead with 2:27 left in the game and lost in overtime. 2021, Herbert gives him a 7-point lead with 2:19 left in the game, and they lose in overtime. 2022, Herbert gives the Chargers a 4-point lead with 1 minute and 46 seconds left.
Stop talking,
and they lose
Daniel.
that game. 2024, last season, he gives them a 1-point lead, 4.5 minutes left, and he never gets the ball back. They run the entire clock out and kick a game-winning field goal. So it's not as if Justin Herbert hasn't put them in the chances to win these games. It just hasn't worked out that way. But let's get to the next one here from Red Zone 814, who says, buy or sell, Rashawn Slater wins the NFL's first Protector of the Year award. So first offensive lineman award in NFL history. Super excited to, see the representation for the offensive line. Such an important position, as Chargers fans know well, in the Rivers and Justin Herbert era. I'm selling it, though, because I just don't know how it's going to be judged yet. It does feel like there's going to be some part of this that's a popularity contest, and I just don't know if Rashawn Slater has the name brand value that it would take to win an award like this, even if he has the play.
Such a technician, such an absolute just unit representation of playing left tackle in the NFL. I mean, if we're talking about merit-based, he should be a part of this award, or at least in the running for it every single year. We're talking about a 90.4 pass block grade, which was third amongst all tackles last season. Was also a great run blocker with the 5th best run blocking grade out of all tackles, 82.8. He only allowed 3 sacks and 547 pass blocking snaps. I mean, the dude is an absolute animal. And honestly, I think with him in line to sign a very lucrative, big-time, multi-year, big money contract, I think, he's going to be in a great mindset. I mean, by all accounts, he's in great shape. I mean, came in, did his conditioning test, crushed it, said, was that all you got? Basically, I mean, Rashawn Slater is a guy I think will always be in the running. Will he win it? Yeah, I think I'm with you. I'm gonna say no, at least not for the inaugural award. But I will go on record and say he is going to win at least one of those awards during his NFL career.
That's interesting. I mean, I think the hard thing is like, even if you're the best left tackle, that doesn't necessarily mean you win this award, because that is one thing you have to understand about this award, is it's not just tackles, right? Protector of the Year could be any position on the offensive line. So, we're talking about Rashawn Slater being probably the third best left tackle maybe going into the season, definitively behind, Trent Williams, who has the name brand to finish that, right, or to win an award like this, behind a Jordan Mailata, who's been, just insane over the last couple of seasons. Not to mention going up against guys like Lane Johnson and Penei Sewell, other bigger names than him, and Creed Humphrey, the best center in the league, or Quentin Nelson. So, I think some of it could be a popularity contest. I actually think Joe Alt might have a better chance of winning this award someday than Rashawn Slater does, because of the size, because he was a top 5 pick, because he just has the name of someone that feels like they would win an award like that. But let's quickly get to this very short voicemail here we have from Richard, who asked a really good question.
Hey guys, love the show. This is Richard. Hey, my question is, if the Zion experiment doesn't work, what do you think is going to be their next move?
Short, sweet, to the point. It doesn't get more efficient than that, Richard. David, what do you think?
Well, I mean, the Chargers and the front office coaches have all been very consistent about what to expect for this. It's either going to be Zion at center or Bradley Bozeman at center, and the other person's going to be playing left guard. It just seems like it's almost a foregone conclusion at this point for me. I don't think they're going to bring anybody in. I think that they're going to figure this out fairly quickly, according to Jim Harbaugh, 8 to 10 days into training camp. But it's going to be one of those combinations. Is if it doesn't work out at center, he's going back to guard.
And that it feels like that's what the next move will be. But as far as like an actual move, I don't know if there would be one. I think the hard thing is just that it's just only so late that you can add an offensive lineman and expect to get them up to speed to be able to start. And I think the problem here, Richard, is it doesn't feel like there's good moves. That's one of the reasons we've been so critical of it, is just because if it doesn't work, yeah, then you go back to Zion at guard and Bozeman at center. And Zion Johnson isn't a terrible guard. He's not awful. But the problem is you can't have the combination of those two people together, because, I mean, we're talking about beating the Chiefs. I know where Chris Jones is going to be lining up this year. It's going to be in between those two guys. So that was a rough duo together, and that was the biggest part of the problem, is like just running it back with those guys next to each other, because the only new options you realistically have at left guard is Ricky Branson Taylor, a 6th-round pick, right? Yeah, you can put Zion back at left guard and Andre James at center, but it doesn't feel like they want to do that at the moment. So
No.
It's just one of those things where that's one of the things, like, you don't know what's next. There really isn't a good option of what the next move would be if it doesn't work out. It feels like they have a lot of eggs in that basket. But we still have more to get into, including if a Chargers defender will lead the league in a category and why that will be Daiyan Henley leading the NFL in tackles and more in today's Locked On Chargers podcast. Thank you again to all of our everydayers out there for always checking us out throughout the offseason. And we are just about to get to training camp, which is just so exciting. We'll have a couple more weeks of just chock full training camp shows for you guys, including our early 53-man roster prediction that we're going to be dropping on Monday. Excited to do that before training camp, and then we'll give our final one after that. But we'll have all the training camp battles, all the training camp storylines, as we always do as training camp approaches. Only less than 2 weeks away now, basically. So we do have more to get into today, though. Thank you for making us your first listen. If you need a second listen, especially with training camps coming up, make sure you check out the Locked On NFL Scouting Show so you can keep up to date with everything going on around the league, with Kyle Krabs and Joe Marino making you the most informed NFL fan this offseason on YouTube and wherever you get your podcast from. But, David, we have a good one here from Kirk, who wonders if the Chargers could have a league leader in 2025.
Hey, this is Kirk in Eagle, Nebraska. Clearly, I have to step up my game on questions. Are you going to buy or sell that a Charger on the defense will lead the league in a specific category, like most sacks, most interceptions, most tackles? I think a Charger will do that this year. Appreciate it. Have a good one.
David, that is a big one. What do you think?
Yeah, I do think that there will be a Chargers defender that will lead the league in a category this season. And to me, it's Daiyan Henley leading the NFL in tackles. Last year, he was 8th in the league in tackles with 147. And he did that with mostly dealing with a bum shoulder for most of the season. So to me, it didn't take me very long to realize that this guy was going to be a tackling machine. I mean, in his rookie season, the very small amount of time that he was out there, he racked up tackles in bunches. And I think now that he's even more comfortable, is in the same system for another year, hopefully has a full, clean bill of health, and is very comfortable in what he's going to be asked to do, I think it's all systems go. I think he is on the verge of superstardom. I think this is the year that he announces himself to the entire NFL, and that is by standing on top of the perch, leading the league in tackles.
Yeah, man, I don't think that's crazy at all. I mean, I think if you're talking about leading in any category, like I'd probably have to sell it realistically, but I think if there was one, that would easily be the most likely one to lead the NFL in a category like that, right? I mean, yeah, he was 26 behind the NFL leader last season, and maybe what we don't talk about enough is we give a lot of people, hey, maybe this person, Junior Colson, can play a lot better in year 2 of Jesse Minter's defense. But don't talk about enough that it's Daiyan Henley's second year in the defense for Jesse Minter too, and the improvements he could make with a full offseason, not only knowing that he's starting, which he didn't know last year, right, but knowing he's that dude already. So The other ones would be kind of like, Tar Heap still, you talked about it. And I think the hard thing there is like last year, 3 of the top 4 interception getters were safeties. It's really been safeties that have been leading the NFL in interceptions. Is Kirby Joseph with 9, is Xavier McKinney with 8. So that might be really tough to do, especially now that guys
they just get to roam around a little bit more, They get that freedom.
I mean, look how many interceptions like someone like a Darrelle Revis has, right? Like, or even like a Jalen Ramsey. The jig is up. I mean, Tar Heap still can get got, but you also know you could pay the ultimate price if you go in his direction. It's no longer a secret maybe that it was last year either, and
That's
guys
true.
can just choose to not throw at you, which makes a big difference too. But like, there's other things like Derwin James will lead all safeties in sacks in NFL. So like he will lead a position group. He will lead the NFL in that category. I don't think, Khalil Mack or Tuli is going to lead the entire NFL in sacks, but Derwin James will definitely lead all defensive backs and safety specifically in sacks, just like he did last season.
Yeah.
And I mean, he might challenge the actual record there. We talked about that before, but let's get to this one from Brandon Sendow, who is asking a pretty controversial buy or sell, I would say, saying, it was his bold prediction, but I'm going to make it a buy or sell. Buy or sell, Derwin James will play his last season with the Chargers this year and get traded next year for draft capital. Happy Independence Day and keep up the good work. Dave, that is a bold prediction. I don't see it.
Hell no. That is definitely not happening. Sorry. Derwin James is one of the founding father types of the Chargers organization. Like he is one of the figureheads. He's the Justin Herbert of the defense. Like he's a guy that is also
he's on the Mount Rushmore of Chargers currently.
Yes, 100% he is. And Jim Harbaugh absolutely adores Derwin James. He's not going absolutely anywhere. And if he produces another, close to all pro season like he did last year, which I think he very much can, especially now that the Chargers know what they have on the back end. They trust who is on the back end, which allows Derwin James to do what he does best, which is absolutely wreak havoc close to the line of scrimmage, get after the quarterback, be a menace and run support, lock down tight ends. He does all that at an extremely high level. And oh, by the way, the Chargers are scheduled to have over $100 million in cap space the next 2 seasons. And it's 100 plus, 100 and whatever. I don't even want to put the number. 180 million.
108 million next
108
year.
million and then 180 million in 2 seasons. Obviously, that's going to change. There's more contracts that need to be
because
put out
everyone's
there.
contract's going to run up 2 seasons.
Derwin is going to get paid another contract. I think he is one of the guys that's going to stay, hopefully, with the Chargers for the entirety of his career. He has done enough, in my opinion, that where he deserves that luxury. I've said that about several other Chargers players that did not come to fruition. It just doesn't seem to ever work out that way unless your name is Antonio Gates. But yeah, very few examples of that happening. But I think Derwin James is definitely that guy. And with this spot in this defense, knowing what he's going to do, I don't think he's going anywhere.
Well, he's still playing at an all-pro level, too. But, I mean, to your point, like, just the reverence this entire organization has for him, I don't see him getting traded. Obviously, we had to see how he plays this year, too.
Of course.
A big part of that. And, I mean, it's going to be hard, maybe harder to move than you might think to move $24.6 million cap hit in 2026 in the final year of a contract to another team. Like, it's not a super easy trade to make contract-wise either. And it might not get you the return that you would hope for a safety who's going into his age 29 season this year. So it's interesting with Derwin. The better question to me, honestly, is just, will the Chargers extend him after this season? I'd say it's more likely than not, but like realistically, truthfully, with all due respect, it's not a type of style that usually ages well in the NFL when you're the big, hard-hitting safety that's taking those tools on your body year in and year out. It's just not, right? So if you're going to sign him, I mean, next year, you have him under contract through when he's 30. Any year you're paying him after that is his age 31 season, his age 32, 33 season. And we've seen what this team has had before, right? Where you had Joey Bosa making big time numbers and having to get rid of him. You had Keenan Allen, the same thing where, you felt like you had to move him because of what the contract hit was. You had the same thing with Mike Williams where you had to get rid of a productive player because of what that contract hit was. You can't do it again, right? Like you can't put yourself in that same situation where everybody gets paid. Now, I'd say, could he come? I mean, I think it's just going to depend on what he wants. Like if he wants, what he's making right now, $25 million for his age 31, 32, 33 season, it's going to be hard to pay him that. So I think that's kind of the bigger question here, but I do not see the Chargers trading him. Even if they can't get a contract done next offseason, maybe he would make a stink, but I do think he wants to be here, still playing at an all-pro level. I don't see them trading him at the moment. But let's get to one more here from Shinobi Q just to get as many as we can in here. A good buy or sell. Tuipulotu will lead the Chargers defense in 2 of these 3 categories, David, between sacks, pressures, and tackles for loss. Buy or sell?
Yeah, I'm going to buy it. I'm a firm believer in Tuli. I think he has really shown flashes of brilliance and also flashes of disappearing. But I think knowing now that he is definitely the guy opposite of Khalil Mack, they're more than likely going to scale down his special teams contributions and probably give that to like a Kyle Kennard type of person. I think, it's full steam ahead, all focus on being one of the best edge rushers that he can be. And so, yeah, I do feel like that is going to manifest itself in leading this team in pressures and sacks in 2025.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, I think for me, the most likely would be sacks and tackles for loss, because that's what Tuli did last season. We actually just saw him do it. He had more sacks than Khalil Mack last year.
Yeah.
He had more tackles for loss than Khalil Mack last year did. But last year, Khalil Mack had 9 more pressures on basically an identical amount of pass rushing snaps. So it's interesting with this specific question. I think I would buy it, but I just think it's so close, because I think it's almost just as likely that Khalil Mack has a much better sack season this year
back
than it is that Tuipulotu makes that next step and gets to a 10-12 sack year. So wouldn't surprise me at all if either of those dudes had 12 sacks, but Khalil Mack has consistently been getting more pressure at a higher rate than Tuipulotu is, so I think that might be the harder of the categories for him to overtake him. But I don't think it's crazy at all for him to potentially lead 2 of these 3 categories, considering he just did it. Per Pro Football Reference, Khalil Mack only had 6 tackles for loss last season. Tuipulotu had 11. He almost doubled it in 2025. Now, not a perfect Pro Football Reference, usually very solid, I mean, for sure. But with the more deeper analytical stuff, it's just hard to find tackles for loss and how places are evaluating it. But either way, thank you everyone for being here on this Independence Day, on this 4th of July. I hope everyone goes out. Most importantly, be safe and have fun. I mean, it's such a fun day. Suck it, England. No, I'm just kidding. Shout out to all of our UK listeners out there too. But this is a great day to be with your family and drink and eat burgers and barbecue and all of those things. So thank you for taking a small slice of that and spending it with us today to make sure you guys are back here for the 53-man roster prediction, our early version of it on Monday. Go subscribe or follow for free on the Locked On Chargers YouTube channel and listen wherever you get your podcast from. We'll also be posting it all of our social media as well, at Locked On LAC on Twitter, at Locked On Chargers on Instagram, and Locked On LAC on our Locked On Chargers Facebook page as well. All of those places you can also get involved on shows like today's show, and we'll definitely have several more fan shows even before training camp starts. Then to go back to Kirk, what he said there about stepping up his questions, just because you don't get on doesn't mean that you don't have a great question. And I want to stress that because I don't get to say it enough. It just matters if it fits with the show that we're doing that day, because all of our segments, as you hopefully know, flow together really well and we stick to very similar topics. So keep sending them and also calling into the voicemail line at 323-524-7924 to get your 30-second Chargers question or buy or sell in there. But happy 4th of July. Go celebrate. We'll be back with you guys on Monday with our first 53-man roster prediction of the season. But until then, take it easy and go Bolts.